Welcome to PKC This Week. Where we talk all things professional kennel club. Found only on Cane Stream Media. Brought to you by Elite Nutrition, Joy Dog Food, and the Professional Kennel Club. Now, let's start the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to PKC This Week. I am joined with Director of Field Operations once again, Mr. Shane Patton. Shane, we took a couple weeks off. We had the 4th of July. I was traveling last week, and to be honest, I got home Thursday night, and I was like, I ought to call Shane and get this done Friday. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to.
Understood.
Yes. And Christy was up last. I knew it was Shane's turn. I'm like, I know Shane likes doing these, and I like doing these, but on Friday afternoon, nobody likes doing these.
That's right. Hey, there's nothing wrong with a little travel, a little break. We're all back,
No.
ready to go, rejuvenated.
We don't have a whole lot going on. There's some pro classics. There's some cool stuff going on every weekend in PKC, basically, except for like certain holidays and stuff like that. But I thought maybe this week, because guys and all handlers, or guys, gals, whoever, they really enjoy the rules portion of this podcast.
Sure.
And we were talking, before we hit the record button, the scratch rules are extensive. And I think it would be a good idea for me and you to just go through these one at a time, let folks know what they mean, how they're enforced. There's a lot of little nuances, for just about every rule. A lot of it depends on your judge, the other handlers, who's you're in the cast with, especially with a hunting judge. So
Sure.
I thought maybe I'd just read some of these off. We'd get started. We'd talk about maybe what gets you booted out of a PKC cast. Because I mean, unlike some people, I always find those interesting. Those are like some of my favorite casts.
Yeah, somebody got the boot.
Yes.
The boot.
And they're not the rarity of these. I don't think people understand how rare a lot of this is. I mean, yes, it happens, but handler misconduct, for instance, I've been on one cast where a handler was scratched for handler misconduct, and I believe that was in 2018.
Yeah, and I've been on the same number of casts, one where
Yes.
somebody was
And
scratched. So
I've also
rare.
only been on two, maybe, where a handler deserved to be scratched for handler misconduct.
Yep, I completely agree. It's
Yep.
it's a rarity. We don't have to use that very often, but it is in there in the case that somebody gets a little out of hand and forgets what they're doing. So
it can happen to any of us, especially with dogs.
absolutely, 100%, without a doubt.
All right, let's get started. Dogs, handlers, and anybody who wants to look this up in the blue book, it is rule number 14. We're going to start with A, and that is a pretty simple one. That is fighting, aggression, any dog snarling, growling, coming off a tree to another dog, yada, yada, yada. All dogs scratched involved. I mean, it's pretty cut and dried. If your dog's getting a little rough, you're probably going to go home.
One of the easier ones, probably of the bunch. If they're in a dog fight, they're going home. It's that simple. One little nuance, I guess you would say, to that rule is it takes the majority of the cast or the judge and one other person to scratch dogs for fighting. So if whatever happens, you get in thick brush and only one person sees something go on, it takes the majority of the cast. So that's something to remember. It takes the majority of the cast or the judge and one other person to scratch dogs in an open event, event rules. Obviously, with a non-hunting judge under pro rules, he sees it, it's done. But under open event rules, just a little nuance to remember: judge and one other person or the majority.
And if the judge and that one other person is the handler of said dog that's getting ready to be scratched, you're probably not going to get scratched. I mean, if I get in there and my dog's growling around a little bit, Judge says, you see that? I'm like, nope, I didn't see nothing.
I forgot my contacts, and
Yes,
yeah, I forgot my
everything's
contacts.
real blurry. I see that
Yeah,
coon though.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But that's
So
just a
that's pretty,
little
yeah,
nuance to remember.
that's pretty easy one. I mean, right there, that's no big deal.
Yep.
Controlling dogs. Any handler attempting to correct or influence their dog to perform, avoid minus points, or scratch an offense will be automatically scratched. Here's the kicker is the last sentence of that rule. This is not meant to include minor praising of a handled dog. You get your dog
Absolutely.
tied up to a tree and you back up and judge says, there he is, plus him up. You go in there, you pet your dog up, you say good boy a few times. You're not getting scratched for that.
Not under any circumstances. Now, you tie him up, back up, and the judge says he's got a possum. You can't you can't go in and start scolding and
Hmm.
slapping trees, and that's trying to control your dog or discourage or
Yeah.
encourage, however you want to say. So yeah, but no, there's go dog trees couldn't go in there, pet him up. That's not. Now, like I said, he's got a possum and you go to stomping and slapping around, then you got a problem. Then you're trying to
What if
control.
you trip? Now, what if you trip on the way to that tree
Yeah.
and you hit a limb and it comes down and it hits the dog in the head and you're like, oh man, I'm sorry about that. I mean, I
The
assume that's up to the discretion of the judge and the other cast members.
one, yeah, that'd be a discretion, all right. The one thing that always, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but people get really clumsy when the 15's working on them. A lot of
Yes,
times they just
they do.
can't hardly walk and they're running.
I can hardly keep my feet with my 15 minutes running. Man, I
Exactly.
kick
And
things.
yeah,
It's
it's
terrible.
like you've lost control of your feet since the 15 started
If
working.
they got a lead, if they're down a couple of coats, they're usually not too, they're pretty coordinated then.
Exactly. Exactly. But no, that one's pretty easy too.
Yeah.
Don't control your dog. Just go in there, pet him up, go on. That's fine. But you go to trying to control him, then you're going to get scratched.
Here's one that I found interesting that I didn't. We understand the premise behind the rule, and that's the use of heat-seeking devices. Any handler found to have used any type of thermal heat-seeking device outside of tree shining time shall be scratched. And
Yep.
we know that rule's there to keep people from finding their coon. You know, they're alone with their dog there. They have a chance to. I mean, there's an opportunity to cheat there. You look, you see if
Sure.
your dog's got a coon. Maybe missed it. It's a couple trees over. A guy's got a chance to slide. You get caught doing that, you're going home early. But that would
Absolutely.
also apply to dogs out running. Maybe your dog's over here
Mhm.
getting ready, locating around, and he's close to you. And maybe you whip that thing out and wonder if there's a coon over there. Maybe I should tree that dog. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yep.
Another instance right there where you're going to go home.
Absolutely. And it's obviously we're not mentioning names or anything like that, but there was an instance where dog was treed on the edge of a field and they're standing in the field, and it's easy to get out and say, well, let me see if I'm going to tree him or not, because there's nothing up there. There's no sense in treeing. We'll wait the whole stationary and do what we got to
Yeah.
do. So yeah, you can't during shine time use them all you want. Otherwise, they need to be put up. There's no sense in having. Sure, shine your buddy's trees, shine whatever trees you're wanting to use them on. But other than that, there's really no need to have them out.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
there's no
Stay in the pouch unless shine time's running.
exactly. Just leave them in there, and don't put yourself in that spot to bring a question up whether you're using it or not. Just leave it in there.
Yeah.
When you get the shine time, roll it out.
Um, B on that same line is dogs guilty of false barking. Babbling will be minused on the first offense and scratched on the second offense. See, I didn't even know that.
I knew it, but I've never seen it. Obviously,
I've
I
never
don't
seen it done.
think I've ever seen a dog scratched for babbling. And I can't remember it happening. Now, has it happened and not been scratched? Probably,
Yeah.
because I would say there was some people who didn't know that rule existed. So, has a
Yeah.
dog been minus twice for babbling and should have been scratched? I would say it's happened throughout the years, but
I'm thinking
I don't
back
think
to
it's been.
a lot of youth casts,
Yeah.
where kids are minus for babbling under the minute.
Yep.
Maybe they recut, strike immediately again, and they're minused again. Maybe it's just for a quarter. Maybe they're
Yep.
striking under the minute with
Yep.
dogs at large because they're 7 years
Sure.
old and they're idiots.
Yep.
you know, and so I've seen that done quite a bit, and I've never even considered the fact that the
Yep.
second time you're out.
Yep. It's and that's nothing new. That's been in there for a
Yep.
long time. And very it's kind of like the option that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Kind of nobody knows it. It's been in black and white for a long time and just kind of nobody lets it sink in. But yes, the second time you can absolutely be scratched. You're supposed to be scratched. Not could be
Yeah.
or
You are
scratched the
scratched. Yeah.
second time. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
speaking of the last conversation we had on that, that actually I seen on social media that podcast actually got brought up on the option.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it was another well-known handler, good dog guy, very, very good dog guy that's been in a lot of casts. And he's like, "You're telling me that once that six is done, we immediately call timeout if we walked away from a trailing dog?" I said, "Yeah."
That's
He
what it
goes, "I
says.
had no idea. They had no idea." I'm
Well,
like, "Well, that makes me and you both until about two
yeah.
weeks ago."
Well, like we talked about it, it's been in black and white. It's not been hidden, but it's just been something that's never been
Yeah.
soaked in, I guess you would say.
Another one that it's kind of got some nuance there is the undeserved points. Any handler making a deliberate attempt to gain undeserved points or avoid deserved minus points or deserved scratch will be scratched. This is also includes a deliberate attempt to assign another handler undeserved minus points or an undeserved scratch.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of weird how this is enforced. Sometimes it's not. A lot of it depending on the judge, and it's such a that is a hard black and white
Absolutely.
rule to interpret, but
Ab-
it has to be there because it's an important rule to do. But you think of
It's,
times where guys are shining trees with their red light walking in before the shine time starts.
Mhm.
That's been classified by some and not by others as undeserved points. So
Right.
I assume some of
Well,
that's going to, know your judge, know the other handlers in the cast.
absolutely. As with many things in coon hunting and life for that matter, there is some gray area in
Mm-hmm.
that because, obviously there's a lot of opinion based. My opinion, your opinion, his opinion, was he trying to gain undeserved points by
Yeah.
doing that? If it's obvious that he's trying to gain undeserved points, sure, scratch him. Um, but it's got to be fairly obvious because otherwise you're getting in somebody's mindset.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
but there's absolutely if it's obvious that they're trying to gain undeserved points, or the probably more common would be, trying not to be minus,
Right.
trying not to be minus. If it's obvious,
Or assign minus to another hunter that doesn't have it
exactly,
coming.
exactly.
I mean, no,
And
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I've done that. We've all done that.
sure. I
A
mean,
lot of the guys
exactly.
that are in this,
So yes, that there is some opinion or gray area with that, and that's
yeah,
normal. That's life. That's part of coon
yeah.
hunting.
Sexual behavior, that's obvious. Your
Yeah.
females in heat, don't turn her loose.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Matter of fact, I remember at Youth Nationals 2 years ago, um, we turned loose. I'm judging, and some dogs are opening. One of them gets stationary put on it, and the handler says, "The dog don't sound right. The dog don't sound right." And we walk up there, and there's a male and a female knotted, and another male trying to fight the one that's knotted with the female.
Mhm. All
And
out
the
chaos.
decision, I actually called you, and here's how I scored it. Did I score this the right way? Because it was, you scratch the female, obviously. You do not do anything to the two males because, we call
They're-
timeout immediately. Female scratched,
Yep.
get dogs gathered up, return them loose. So yeah, if your female's smelling, don't turn it loose. It's going to create all kinds of trouble.
Absolutely. And I know, and that there's females that are turned loose and they're in heat.
Yeah,
It happens. They've Vicks, salve, and
yeah,
whatever you can think of. All it does is cause problems. Somebody else has drove out there an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours
yeah,
to go to a hunt, and in the first 3 minutes, you've turned loose a female, and their night's done. And
yeah.
even if the female gets scratched, that dog's mindset
The
is
mindset's
nowhere
messed up.
where it needs to be.
Yes.
So, if you've got a dog in heat, I know it stinks. I know it's 21 days, do nothing with them,
Yeah.
but that's part of owning a female. Don't turn them loose if they're in heat. Don't cause everybody else a problem because you're trying to go hunting.
I remember the semifinals of my very first pro hunt, and I'm hunting a male dog, and we go to take our pictures. and my mine falls in love with this female at the picture time. Now, she wasn't swelled up, she wasn't bleeding, but she was obviously, because there were two other females. It was him and three females, and that was the only one he cared about. He followed her around all night. He looked like an idiot. They happened to breed her to a well-named stud dog 12 days later.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so, it happens.
yeah. Just
So
came
don't,
in
yeah,
heat.
don't do that.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
The stationary rule we have covered, I believe, on this before, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, we'll glance over that. If you got the stationary running, tree your dog
that's right.
or
If
get
you don't,
scratched.
it's that one's pretty cut and dried, really.
Yep.
Tree your dog. If you don't tree it, go get it because you're scratched. That's it.
And the not hunting 15-minute rule, there's some other times that you're going to run during that 15. So let's talk about that. Of course, the dog comes into the cast. It's obviously not hunting. The judge applies the 15-minute rule. What goes on from there?
Okay. They apply the 15-minute rule. The dog has to be gone, as in out of sight, hunting for 5 consecutive minutes. The dog leaves. The judge starts the 5 on the 15. And if the dog's gone for 5 minutes, boom, it's done. It's over. The 15's off. If they're not gone for 5 minutes, that dog comes back in, then the 5 is broken and the 15 continues wherever it was the time he came in. It doesn't stop.
Okay.
It's continuous.
Yeah, they run concurrently,
Yes, that's
the
right.
5 and
That's
the
right.
15.
And
Yeah.
if the dog is not gone for 5 minutes during the 15, he's scratched. When that watch hits 15 minutes, the dog is either A, got to be gone with the 5 working, or B, he's standing there and he's scratched. Now, at 14:58, if that dog leaves, he's got 5 minutes to stay gone.
Yeah.
So when the watch hits 15, he's got to stay the rest of the 5 or come back in and get scratched. It's
Yeah.
that's and there is one little nuance, and this happened, and it's kind of a crazy situation. It got down to the end. It was 2 dogs left, and got down to the end of the cast, and there's 7 or 8 minutes left, and these 2 dogs are deadlock tied,
Mm-hmm.
and the judge didn't start the 15 on the dog when he came in because there was 7. Your mind tells you
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, it should have been started because they were deadlocked. You don't know what's going to happen in the last 7 minutes. The dog, if we go into sudden death, that 15 should be working. So I realize that's a very unique scenario.
That is a very that has only happened once,
I
surely.
guarantee it. I guarantee it. But I guess what I'm saying, if ever in doubt, start it. They
Yeah.
can question what it's not the end of the world, I guess. And that case was very rare, but it happened and it caused a little bit of a ruckus. So the dog's there, put the 15 on them if there's any doubt.
I'm going to start the 15 in the last 5 minutes on everybody now. just to
You're
give
gonna
them
be
a stroke, just so they can jump up and down. Like, you can't run the 15 on me. I'm like, Shane said I had to.
you're gonna be out there 9 minutes later by
Yeah.
yourself. Right, gone.
That's very true. I'll have to get my own ride back.
That's right.
All right, let's go to Rule 14I, and that is delay, and it just simply says unreasonable delay in completion of the cast.
Yeah, and this is one that's I've heard of people getting scratched for it, but I've never been on a cast where they actually got scratched for it. We know we've hunted long enough. Guys have been out there long enough to know when somebody is intentionally delaying the cast. It's pretty obvious. Now we're not talking about the guy who just had knee surgery and is getting through the woods. That's not delaying the cast. You know, you walk as fast as the slowest member. Now, so some people have tried to take advantage of that a few times over the years, that they had a elderly gentleman or a injury. Well, he's delaying the cast. That's not delaying the cast. Delaying the cast is Josh, who's in perfectly fine health, holding us up 80 yards at a time back here, just because he's doesn't want to get this tree scored and get cut loose in the last 3 minutes. That's trying to delay the cast. So got to use a little common sense there. The older gentleman who's having a little trouble getting around, or the young guy who's got a broken leg and trying to get around, is not delaying the cast. That's
Yeah.
people coon hunting. It's
Mhm.
pretty obvious when somebody's trying to delay the cast.
When this always happens is the last few minutes, a few seconds sometimes of a hunt. When
Absolutely.
there's a dog treat over here, you're going to score it. There's another dog back here that the handler's trying to stay in hearing distance of.
Yes.
He's hanging back of the cast to keep from all the people walking from making noise and stuff. He's trying to get, we've all
Absolutely.
had that happen. And the
Absolutely.
only time I've had a chance, or when I thought somebody should have been scratched, we were at Super Stakes one year and two guys took, of course, they could still tree for the win. I'm treed through here, and two guys took 26 minutes to walk 800 yards across wide open cornfield.
Mhm.
And luckily, it didn't matter. I think I would have won that one. If
Yeah.
I needed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
my dog didn't have crap anyways, so
Yeah.
it didn't make a
Didn't
difference.
matter. Didn't matter.
But yeah, I mean, but it does happen, and it's something that judges need to be mindful of because I don't know. Most judges I know, including myself, are going to give you that last minute, 30,
Absolutely.
45 seconds, something like that, to listen.
Yep.
Even if we are continuing to a tree that's going to be last, if it's the last minute or two of the cast, we're going to stop and listen for your dog and give you a chance
Sure.
to make a call. There's
Sure.
no sense
Sure.
in, holding everybody up when you may need to come with us. Maybe it's down to three dogs. Maybe there's some guy down there,
Sure.
at his tree already or something like that. We need you to score this tree. There's no sense in delaying the cast.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, returning to a tree, dogs handled at a scored tree a second time will receive 125 minus points. Any dog handled the same tree three times will be scratched. That one's pretty simple.
Pretty cut and dried. You handle the dog on the same tree for the third time, just go to the truck. That's
Yep.
that's pretty cut and dried, pretty simple. The only other nuance now is obviously when they go back the first time, it's not a freebie anymore. It's 125 minus,
Yes.
but that has nothing to do with getting scratched. So, but
Yep.
you, after the first time, you go back again, you're gone.
And it is that individual dog on that individual tree. It's not a dog that
Absolutely.
goes to a tree that's already been scored once. If it's the first time that dog's there, it's not going to get nothing but deleted.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. And then you have handler leaving the cast.
And that's pretty cut and dried as well. Handler
Yeah.
takes it off and leaves the cast for whatever reason, without permission. Obviously, going to handle his dog is perfectly
Yeah.
legal, but he just takes off and decides he's going to go the other direction. Well, that's going to get you scratched, and that's pretty
And
cut and dried, really.
yeah,
That's
it is. And then M outside assistance, and that is in this day and age's technology. Good luck proving that one.
yeah, yeah, and that that's you're going to have to see somebody doing something outside the cast to get somebody scratched for that.
Yeah.
That's going to be cut and dried because you're going to seen it. Other people are going to seen it. They're going to get scratched. Otherwise, there's not a lot there.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking through the blue book now, and those are what you can get scratched for. I don't think there's anything else in here. I mean, I don't think of anything else I've ever seen anybody scratch for. What is this? I'm trying to think of the times I've seen somebody scratch for something. Like I said, one time for handler misconduct.
I tell you
Never
something
for,
that I tell
huh?
you one thing that they're scratched a bunch for that you didn't see anything there is walking a minute. They cut the dog at 58
Mm-hmm.
seconds instead of a minute, or we walked a minute, stopped. Judge says 6 is working, and I cut.
Yeah,
That happens quite a bit.
it does.
Um, and as you read in the scratching, there's nowhere in there. I guess the one
Trying to
thing
gain
you could do,
undeserved
that's
points.
right.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
one thing. But we've got the no harm, no foul in. A lot of people don't like it. I
yeah,
understand that, but there is a reason for it, and it's not scratching is a last resort. As we read this at every major event there is before we call
yeah,
out the cast, Monday through Saturday. The scratching is the last resort. A guy going up there and thought you said cut instead of stop or whatever is not getting scratched for that.
yeah.
Now, I realize there may be times where it's done intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I realize that. And you've got the right to scratch him. But if the panel sees that this was no harm, no foul, they're not gonna
Yeah.
scratch him because There's nothing to it. So
We actually had
that's
that.
one.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
that happen at Junction.
yeah,
I actually said minutes working. He
yeah,
was about 4 feet from his tree, just unsnaps it. We
yeah,
had
yeah.
another dog treat in. Strike was not open. He's only going to go in for a quarter. He did get an extra minute of hunting time, I guess, is what he got. But and I'm in there with some really good guys, Michael
Sure.
Ward and Kevin Cable and James Wright, and I'm just like, that's no harm, no foul. I was like, I told him, I'm like, wait until I tell you because he goes, I don't know what I was thinking. He goes, I thought that was a quick minute. I thought you said cut him. I'm like, no, I said your minutes were good. I'm still shining the tree.
But everybody knew that was
Yeah,
nothing. It wasn't trying to be
exactly.
a slick one or nothing. It just stuff happens,
Oh yeah.
and accidents, whatever you want to say. No harm, no foul. That's right.
Yep.
That's what.
And that's something I really enunciate, especially anybody listening to this that does judge a youth cast, because these kids, man, they're
Sure.
not paying a whole lot of attention. A lot of the grown-ups too. They don't understand that the six is going to be applied.
Yep.
Maybe they forgot that there's a dog struck in. Maybe they haven't heard a dog for a long time. They just got it in their brain that they're going to walk their minute and cut.
Yep.
And if strike's open and you cut loose, it's no big deal anyway. But
Exactly.
it's just it's usually
There's
not a big deal if they do it a
it,
little early.
it's not. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's fixable. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. You know, I did have one instance at a pro classic and it was hunting judges and strike was open. A guy walked about 30 seconds of his minute and the judge said 30 seconds left in your minute and he unsnapped and then struck for 100
Yeah.
right in front of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
we didn't, it was a tight game at the time. We didn't really say much. I'm like, well, that sucks, and he was apologetic. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but it was a deal where he stayed in. He didn't win the cast, so it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
But I had that in my back of my hand. I'm like, well, if you can get away with that with a dog that barks a lot, get that 100.
We slipped. Yeah.
Yep. But that
Um,
is it. I think as far as scratching offenses, you think of anything else, Shane?
no, I think that's pretty well it. We talked about it earlier. We got some Pro Classic this weekend. Croble's got a 5,000.
Yep.
Ender's got a 2,500. So we got some money on the line this weekend. So
Yeah.
should be a good weekend.
I know Crowville's fantastic hunting, but I've never hunted down there in July.
Neither have I, and I think it would be warm, but hey, they're
Yeah.
ready to go. They're ready to get it.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got. We've got next big one coming up is what, Super Stakes?
Yeah,
Fall Super Stakes?
that's pretty well it.
And then, of course, Pro Classics, open events,
Oh,
everywhere you
yep.
go. Check out the website, check out the schedule, find a club close to you, and go hunting. Do some
Yep.
PKC hunting.
Come visit us somewhere, sometime, someplace.
All right, Shane. That's all I
Hey,
got.
appreciate it, bud.
All right. That is PKC this week. This is Josh Michaelis. That is Shane Patton. We thank you for joining us.